The discourse is juicy with this one. Taylor Swift, The Life of a Showgirl, her 12th album, and like the 9th thing she's released this decade alone. The 9th thing, I think it is. I might have miscounted, but if you were ever thinking, oh, am I going crazy, or is there a lot of Taylor Swift these days? You're not going crazy. There is a lot of bloody Taylor Swift these days. And given the fact that she was re-recording her previous albums in the midst of also dropping multiple studio albums, there's just been a lot of Taylor Swift this decade. And I think sometimes you get to a point where, as an artist, when you've done it all, you're at the top of the top of the top, and you keep staying there, and you do everything you can to stay there, your actual music ends up suffering, and you don't have a great deal to say. At this point, Taylor Swift has said so much across many of her albums, and we're reaching the point now where, even though she's getting married, and that should be a pretty big thing, yet somehow there's very little to say in the actual music. And you might be thinking, how? That can't be possible. That doesn't make sense. Well, actually, it kind of does. Because last year, she dropped a 31-song album with a bunch of like extra tracks that she throws on these extra variants that are available for however many hours. And it's got an acoustic version and a bonus track and all this. So 31 songs for the album that she dropped, and then however many more there is. Just only last year. So you probably don't need to then drop another album a year later. Oh, but no, but you do. You do. You do. When the money is moneying. You need more money, baby. Just keep bringing in that money, baby. And just the more music, the more money. She is rolling in it, and she decided that this year she's dropping another album, for goodness sake. Well, it's okay, though. It's okay, though, because she jumped on that podcast with Travis Kelce, and it's all bangers. These ones are bangers. Tortured Poets was a lot. Tortured Poets was a lot of lyrics, a lot of oversharing, a lot of diary entry style stuff, but we're ditching that and we're going for the bangers. We're going for the bangers. Are there any bangers on this album? Debatable. Well, no, there aren't really any bangers. There are a couple of upbeat songs that are more so upbeat than anything she's done over the past album or so. Sure, yeah, obviously, fine. They're not bangers, though. You've got Max Martin and Shellback on production, which, honestly, if she hadn't said for like 25 times in that podcast that they were going to be there making the bangers, I'd have not noticed. I'd have not noticed, my friends. I'd have not picked up on the fact that this Max Martin is the same guy that made Style. That's a really good Taylor Swift song. That's a really good Taylor Swift song. It has really unique production. But this production on this album doesn't scream bangers. And honestly, it feels more Jack Antonoff than anything I would have expected. And we've had a lot of bloody Jack Antonoff on Taylor Swift albums for the past 9 that have come out this decade. I repeat, 9. 9. Freaking 9. And I don't think we needed more of that. Now, that's not Jack hate. I actually think Jack is good, and Jack has done some really interesting collaborations over the years. He's done some really good music with the likes of Lorde, Kendrick Lamar, Bartees Strange this year. Really good album, and it's very different to what you would expect to hear on a Taylor album. So it's not exactly anything he's doing wrong. It's just that partnership kind of reached the end, really. And yet somehow it hasn't ended, because there are tracks on this album that just feel eerily similar to stuff we've heard before. Yes, it's slightly more upbeat, but I'm not hearing bangers. Well, okay then, fine. No bangers, whatever. Sure, great. But we're getting an insight into the life of a showgirl. We're getting an insight into what it's really like to be a showgirl. Yay, cool, interesting concept. Do we explore it? No. There is no exploration of that concept at all. We do not know anything about what it's really like to be a showgirl. Great, cool. Oh no, but actually, it's a showgirl album and it's showgirl music. Do we get the cabaret? Do we get the over-the-top theatrical sounds? Do we get the exciting glitteriness of it all? Do we get Moulin Rouge meets Chicago? Also, no. So we don't get bangers, we don't get the insight to what it's really like to be a showgirl, and we don't actually get any showgirl isms across the entire album. So what is the point of any of this other than to sell more music and to take Adele's record because you've promoted it as this exciting banger-esque album, bangerific album? What does this album tell us? It tells us many things, and many things that aren't written very well. The glaringly clear, obvious thing about this album is that the writing is poor, piss poor. We start with The Fate of Ophelia, which I think is musically possibly the best or the second best song. I think it sounds okay. I think it sounds kind of Chapel Roan a bit, but obviously I don't think it's as good as Chapel Roan because I think Chapel Roan's kind of killing it at the moment. But you know, it's kind of got a little bit of that spark to it that maybe like A Good Look Babe has a little bit if you squint your eyes. And yet the writing on the song is framing Taylor Swift as Ophelia, who is a character from Hamlet. Now correct me if I'm wrong, because I did a little bit of Shakespeare at school, as we all did, and I went to see Hamlet live in theatre with John Sims. It was great. It was a long time ago, okay? I'm not an expert on Shakespeare. I don't confess or claim to be anything of the sorts. But I thought Ophelia's fate was that Hamlet gets her father killed and she basically descends into madness. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong. But I just don't know if that's the right metaphor to be using here, Taylor. I just don't think it is. The idea that you're locked away in your tower and Travis comes to save you from your fate feels very mismatched, and I'm just not entirely sure what makes you think your fate is anything close to that, honestly. I just think it's really kind of, you know, GCSE English writing. I think she wants to keep hold of those references, those literary references, because that's who she is. That's what she's presented to her fans for the longest time. She's different to the rest of the mainstream girls who don't write songs like her. And Taylor does write well when she's really focused and really on it. She does. I know a lot of her haters really don't think she does, but I'm here to say that she does. And I just think this is a really flimsy metaphor that she really is trying to keep a hold of just to keep those fans a little bit happy. Musically, it sounds okay. It's going to be the hit of the album, sure, but I'm just not hearing anything all that special here. Elizabeth Taylor, that she does in that Taylor Swift voice, also doesn't particularly impress me all that well, because again, I think she's trying to do a little bit of a comparison here. Hollywood hates me, all this kind of stuff. I'm just, again, not interested in this. I think the historic reference feels forced. She just kind of wants to keep a couple of songs that have that quintessential Taylor vibe, and then just steamrolls it and completely like bulldozes it and just ruins everything later on in the album. But the first few songs, I think, are going to make people go, oh yeah, this is the Taylor I know, and kind of make you think you should stick around when it gets a lot worse, trust me. Opalite might be a track that sounds the best, though, in terms of what I said before musically. I think this is a well-written chorus. I think, you know, the hook is catchy. Again, when I'm thinking of like the best Taylor Swift songs, even though I can kind of get behind the music on a few of these tracks I've mentioned so far, they're not like anything special. They still feel a little derivative. They still feel like I could get more exciting versions of this elsewhere. And again, for her own standards, I don't think they really make her best ever songs. And then we just start taking a big poop over everything and just really lose track and just get to a point where, wow, like Taylor is just not on her A game here, or even close to it. She's not even on like her D game. She's been known to drop a few stinkers in her time, but like she's not even like reaching that bar. She's going lower than that. Father figure, okay, is it all a metaphor for getting her masters back and she's trying to be this mob boss and be like, hey, I'll be your father figure, I'm your daddy, and you do what I say because I was the one in your position once upon a time where I was being told what to do, but now I'm flipping that or whatever, and I'm telling you what to do. And I just think some of the writing here is just really flimsy, again, just really corny. The whole Dick Spigger thing is just a bit lame, really. It's not the worst thing in the world, but yeah, I don't know. I think she earned herself a song like this, where she gets to be like, "Oh no, I've brought my family back; they're mine now." And you know, you're under my control, because of obviously the whole fighting to get her masters and everything like that, which I think most music fans were on her side with, really. So I think she earned that, but she didn't earn to write this badly. Not especially as the album goes on, because next we got Eldest Daughter, my friend. Oh, one viral part of this song that's been going around that everybody has completely took a big poop on, that I'm probably getting late to here in this review, is that whole every eldest daughter was the first lamb to the slaughter, so we dressed up as wolves and we looked fire, which, yeah, I mean, that is really bad writing. Again, it feels so like GCSE level. And honestly, GCSE level for some kids, like, if you're really clever, you can reach higher than this. Like, I think sometimes people just think, oh, a kid could have wrote this. You can find some kids that are insanely smart, my friends, and I think they would have wrote a better line than this. And this is the biggest artist in the world, trying to be all like clever with the writing, and it's just so piss poor. I've been afflicted with terminal uniqueness. That is like the corniest brag I've ever heard. I think if you're going to brag, I would much rather you go really over the top and ridiculous with it than say something this pretentious and full of yourself and just, oh, it's afflicted. I'm not even, I like that word, right? But the afflicted in this, oh, it gets me so, oh, ugh. It's just so bad. It starts out really bad too, where she's talking about everybody's hot takes are as cold as ice. Everybody wants to be punk on the internet and be all cool. When did she go like really terminally online? What point was that in her career where she just suddenly started spending her writing on this type of language? There are a few points, again, I'll probably point out throughout this review, where it really feels like a teenager who just spends a lot of time online and she's using buzzwords and these really cheap references. I'm sure there's even a point where she says that whole "I'll girl boss you into the sun" thing or whatever. Isn't that like a TikTok thing? I mean, I don't even know that well. But even still, I can pick up on some of the lines and be like, isn't that that? And why are you talking about that? Like, why have you got burner accounts and you just spend a lot of time like looking at these things? It's like really hit a point where like that is starting to infect her writing in such a strange way. I mean, there's just this really odd insecurity that's just lingering on this album. And I think writing about your insecurities is really interesting if you do it well. There's so many great writers that do that. But there's this like self-awareness that's just lacking with Taylor. And it's almost like ego is taking over and it takes the reins and it just ends up coming across insecure. I mean, there's another big artist that does this too. Dare I say Drake? Is she becoming Drake? She's too big for her own good. She's too big to fall. She is obsessed with the charts. She is writing terribly about how people perceive her and things. I've said it once before in passing where I was like, Taylor and Drake have quite a lot in common. In 2025, that statement is not shifting. Like, that's even more true now than it ever was. When did she become Drake? Why are we writing about having cancelled friends and how we share the same scars because I'm just like them? I'm cancelled too because I'm friends with you. And, oh, it's so grim. It's so ugly. It's so, like, I don't want to hear any artists singing about this. Again, feels so chronically online in a weird way that she's never felt before. Like, why is she singing about this? And this is why the parallels to Tortured Poets, I'm not allowing there to be this narrative that this is so much different to that album. Because again, Eldest Daughter, musically, doesn't sound that much different. Father Figure doesn't either. Like, these are really bland sounding songs that existed on Midnights. and Tortured Poets. So the sound shift, despite the fact that you've got Max Martin and Shellback on this album, is not noticeable enough at all. But beyond that, this whole cancelled thing that she's doing, I mean, again, Tortured Poets, there were multiple songs where she was moaning about how people perceived her and Matty Healy and the whole drama that surrounded that, which was really odd as well, because why are you writing about that and putting it on an album now that you've got Travis Kelce? Like, if she'd never got with Travis Kelce and she was still single, fine, put that on the album. But by that point, they'd been together like a year. So why are we putting songs about Matty Healy on Tortured Poets when you already are now with somebody new? It's just really odd. She's just so obsessed with the perception of her and doesn't know how to kind of meander around it. And look, I'll never relate. Nobody watching this video will ever relate. Like, we are not that famous. We will not know what it's truly like to have constant discourse about you. I fully get that, right? Okay, I get it. It must mess with you, but write about it better. Write about it more interesting. Cancelled is awful. The vocal tone that she uses as well when she says cancelled. Ugh. And speaking of this weird ego that's managed to make its way into her music, I can't believe I'm using words like this. I genuinely feel like I'm talking about a different artist, but Actually Romantic. Oh my god, I don't even know where to begin. What are you doing? This is bad. Again, we're talking like the Heart Part 6 levels bad here. We're talking Bigfoot, Nicki Minaj. If this is the attempt at a diss track you're going for, first of all, you're Taylor Swift. You're the biggest pop star in the world. Why are you writing songs like this? I don't know. But secondly, what are you trying to even achieve with this song? What is it doing? It doesn't attack Charlie in an interesting way. It's just like high school levels, like secondary school levels of writing. Charlie made one song, Sympathy is a Knife, which, yeah, is about Taylor Swift. Okay, fair. Once. She hasn't made 10 songs about Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift makes the entire song like, you're obsessed with me, it's making me wet that you think about me all the time and you just are always talking about me. That's like what the level of diss you can come up with. No. You're not fooling people. You're not fooling the people that listen to like hip hop and things, that pay attention to this style of music and diss, the history of dissing. Those people are not being fooled by this. Maybe your 12-year-old fans will think this is an amazing diss, but nobody that actually pays attention to what real good disses are thinks that. This is terrible. And also, Sympathy is a Knife was about, yes, Taylor, but it was about Charlie's insecurities that she was around somebody so much bigger than her and felt like she couldn't really like comprehend that and come to terms with that. And it was more about her frustration with herself. She's frustrated at herself so badly that, you know, she's getting this pent up about it. That's what that song's about. It's not hating on Taylor Swift the whole way through. Charlie says in the song that she wants to get a gun, right? She's not saying she's going to shoot Taylor Swift. She was saying she might shoot herself. This is not an angry diss song towards Taylor Swift. She's replying to, it's embarrassing. I don't even know, man. I spent way too long talking about this, but good God, it's embarrassing. Ruined the friendship. Your girlfriend was away, but I should have kissed you anyway. We're doing songs like this now. We're really trying to like tease this idea of like, you know, oh, it's so cool to be an adulterer, I guess, or, you know, push somebody into cheating on their part. Like, we're doing this again. If it wasn't for the fact that her fans paint her up to be the greatest songwriter ever, I really don't think people would be as critical. But because people say that about Taylor Swift all the time, and Rolling Stone comes through with that 5-star review the day the album comes out, this is why people are extra critical, because it's like, this isn't good writing, and yet you're sitting there gaslighting us into thinking this is extra remarkable. Like, this is not touching the best writers of all time. Even, and I could take the heat here if I want, I don't mind. Even her best written work is not touching the best songwriting of all time. It's not. Her best written work is really good, but it's not all time good. It's not the best of all time. It's not that good. And tracks like Ruin the Friendship, Wishlist, is also not convincing me that she's that great of a songwriter either, or somebody has replaced her somewhere and just like changed her. I don't even know. It's really not good. We're talking about like Real Madrid contracts and stuff. And it's like, no, but I just want you. You're on my wish list. Ugh. Would? I mean, I don't know if the song credits have mentioned this anywhere, but that kind of sounds a bit like the Jackson 5. And that's only one mention in this review of any kind of samples that could be there, because there's actually a few songs that sound a little bit similar to other songs as well. So I'm not sure if any of that's going to come into conversation. I know it happened a little bit with Beyonce, where the keyless thing kind of became a bit of a conversation for a couple of weeks. Maybe a bit more time passes and we'll hear more about it, but that does sound like the Jackson 5. I'm sorry. I didn't catch it on first listen, but yeah, I hear it. And I hear those lyrics too. Again, this is really poor metaphors for basically talking about somebody's, somebody's wood. Yeah, again, like, this is not a mature songwriter making these lyrics. This feels like you're trying so hard to have your own Sabrina Carpenter type song, because she's full of innuendos and she's full of the kind of hee hee cheeky cheeky ooh, I can't say that, ooh, I can't say that, ooh. Like, she's full of all those kinds of songs. And honestly, again, maybe a hot take, I don't know, some of Sabrina's songs aren't that good. Like, some of her innuendos are really shockingly bad. Like on Taste. Not Taste, no, it's not Taste, it's Tears is the one I was thinking. Apologies, I messed up my words there. Tears is the one I was thinking. That's not really well written. So if you're trying to be Sabrina and you're doing it worse than that, when that's already not that great, oh my lord, we're not in for a good one. It's, yeah, speaking of Sabrina, she does pop up on the final song, The Life of a Showgirl, which somehow we have the words uttered. What is it? The life, you'll never know the life of a showgirl, babe, and you don't want to know it. You don't want to know it. Got you drinking. You don't want to know it, baby. It's such a hard life. Like, we do want to know it. I thought that was the point of the friggin' album. I thought we were supposed to know what the life of a showgirl is, and she's like, you don't want to know it. Well, I do. That would have been great, actually. That would have probably made for a more interesting album, because this album's about nothing. It's about nothing. Honey is a song about how honey can mean different things in different situations. Yeah, that's it. Do you care about that? Do you care that at a bar, when a girl is kind of like trying to be sassy with you and calls you honey, that means different to when you go home to your husband or your partner or whatever and they call you honey? Yeah, that's the song. Yeah, that's the song. I don't care about that. I don't care about Sabrina's fake Dolly Parton voice that she forces in too many times in her songs. I don't care about the sound of that song. It doesn't sound showgirly. It's got Sabrina and Taylor Swift on it, who you'd think would put together a really exciting, bubbly pop song. That isn't there. The entire album isn't anything exciting on a musical level. The writing across the whole thing is really bad, as I've already pointed out and said many times. This is not the album of the biggest artist in the world. Okay, this is not the quality of the biggest artist in the world. This is not a record-breaking album that's going to take the biggest first week sales of all time in possibly multiple countries. I don't know if it will do it in the UK, but it's definitely doing it in America, and it will again break other records like streaming records and everything like that too. This is just not the quality of that. It's not really at that level at all. And the response to this album has been interesting. It's been interesting. People are pushing back now. We were kind of in the trenches a little bit whenever we tried to critique Midnights and Tortured Poets. There was a lot of heavy pushback when people were doing that, and those albums weren't that good either. But this is worse than that now, and people are seeing it. People are seeing through the nonsense, the multiple variants, the greed. How this album basically feels more like a product than it does music. It feels like a product. It feels, when she speaks about it, it doesn't feel like there's passion there. It doesn't feel like when she's posting this new version's available for 24 hours. It doesn't feel like that's an artist that cares about what they're putting into the music. It feels like that artist is excited to break new records and make even more money. That is not what music is about. How is that where we have ended up? I don't know. Yes, the accolades are always going to be impressive, and the achievements and the breaking of records will be unfathomable in 2025, that somebody can do that when streaming is taken over and physical sales are at a low that we haven't really seen before in, the history of music. Those things will always be impressive, but when the music is taking this much of a nosedive to get to that point of impressive achievements, you're not impressing me enough. Like, I will always care more about what you put into your art, and at this point I don't think Taylor cares as much now, as long as it just feeds the fans. And yeah, but the facade is kind of, breaking a little bit. People are seeing behind that mask and seeing Taylor a little bit more for what she actually cares about. And no 5-star reviews on the day of release that are clearly paid are convincing people anymore. This is bad, and it's worse than it's ever been, actually. The Go artists weren't making this at 35, I'll tell you that. Like, that is no age to be making this terrible music. There's no excuses. No, 3.5 out of 10. I was kind of toying between that or a 4, but then I thought about it and I thought, no, you know what? I think Torture Poets was a little bit better. Torture Poets I don't like at all, but Torture Poets had thought put into it in a way that this album I don't think does. That's the thing. Yes, sure, musically some of the tracks might be better, but the writing and the awkwardness that lives in this album, and the lack of identity, the lack of theme, consistent theme, the lack of ideas, the lack of anything at all, really, originality, just makes it her worst album. It makes it her worst. This is her worst, and I can't really go higher than that. So yeah, sorry for the mega long review. This might be one of my longest reviews ever, and I did not mean for it to be, but there's just so much to say. There's so much to unpack. There's so much to criticize. And yeah, I hope people enjoyed this one. I hope you agree. If you do agree, let me know in the comments. If you disagree, also let me know. Try and be fair and reasonable. And yeah, whew, that was a big one. Have a good day. Subscribe, and goodbye.